The two most useful tools I've got in my workshop are these. So anything that keeps these operating just like this tends to get my attention. And in particular, any device that makes the table saw a little bit safer to use, I'm particularly interested in. So that's why recently I had a look at this. And this is a Featherboard. So I'm not unfamiliar with Featherboards. I've used them for a long time. In fact, I bought this one perhaps 10 years ago. And by and large, it's done a reasonable job. There's only one minor fault with it, and that is that these guides that go into the slots are just a little bit out of spec. So when you try and tighten them up, you can't tighten them up enough. And what ends up happening is that the Featherboard slips backwards and forwards. So to get around that, I'll just put a little bit of masking tape along here, and that sort of does the job, but it's not ideal. So recently I saw these advertised and I thought these have got to be worth a look, and there were a couple of things that interested me about them. The first one was that they're double-sided, so you've got this side with relatively thin blades, and then you've got this side with thicker blades, which means that you can press, I guess, harder against the fence when it's in use. The other thing I liked about them was that they came with a full complement of accessories, if you like to call them, or fixtures. And if I get one straight out of the plastic bag, you get the Featherboard itself, you get these two, let's call them slot guides for want of a better word, and they're to go in normal slots, not T-style slots. So for that reason, they come with countersink bolts, so that, if I could just put that over here, so that as you tighten it, the two sides expand and it'll stick in the miter slot and not move. It also comes with fittings for T miter slots, so they will definitely not move, so they slide in, and then you just screw into them with the countersink bolts. And then last but not least, you've got two cuphead bolts, and the reason for those is that the knobs that go with them then allow you to use a T-track, which I'll demonstrate a little bit later. So let's get down to basics. You're probably already familiar with how Featherboard works, but just in case you're not, I'll do a bit of a demo. So it fits into the slots like so, and then if we take a bit of material, so this one for example, and say we wanted to take just a tiny little bit off, then it's set the fence. So we're just going to remove maybe about 3 mil from the outside, which is about a saw kerf. Now, if we were to do that without a Featherboard, then typically I'd use a combination of these, and I'd start off by pushing it through with my hand and use this push stick to hold it against the fence. And you know, I've had reasonably good success with that, but it's not so much that it's unsafe, it's just that I don't think that accuracy is particularly helped by doing something manually like this. So with the Featherboard, what you do is you just move it up to press reasonably firmly against the piece of material that you're about to cut, and then you tighten it down. And unlike my other cheap Featherboard, once you tighten this one down, there's no moving it. It's really, really good. And then you start the saw up and off you go, and you don't have to worry about pushing it against the fence. That's all done for you, and away you go. So I've just been using one Featherboard for quite a long time, and I use it often and I use it successfully and I like it. But when I saw these, the other thing that I really liked about them was the price. The guy I bought them off has a deal where you can buy them in multiples, so you can buy 2 or 4 or 6, I think. So I bought 4, and 4 of them was $49, so that works out at $12.25 a pop. That's really, really cheap, given that the other one I told you about, it doesn't work properly, it cost me $25. It's only single-sided, these don't stick properly, So that makes these very, very good value. So now I've got 4. So I thought, with 4, what can I do with that? How can I make things safer and easier to use? And you know, at this stage I'd say it's not just about safety. To me, it took a long time for me to be convinced that it's worthwhile wearing safety glasses, hearing protection and gloves, for example. And the reason for that is I found that particularly doing operations like using the router table, and the router is really, really noisy, and the last thing you want to be is tentative or apprehensive about any operation you're doing with high-speed woodworking equipment. So if you're putting something through your router, say on the router table for example, where your fingers are in some proximity to the spinning bit, then you want to be positive about what you're doing. And I've found that when there's a whole lot of noise happening at really high volume levels, then that wasn't the case. I think that noise intrudes into the way you operate. And when you wear hearing protection, for example, then I find I'm much more relaxed to the point where I concentrate more on what I'm doing rather than being bugged by the noise. But anyway, as I said, I've now got multiples of these. So the first thing I did was I decided to create a fence so I could have a vertical one as well. Now this is fairly simple. It's just a piece of chipboard with a bit of T-track set into the side of it, and then it's got like a sleeve that goes over the top of my normal fence, and then I've got a couple of toggle clamps on here that allow me to clamp it in place. So the reason I have that is because when I first got the clamp I thought maybe I can use it like this, and I'll just put a clamp here on the fence. Now not only did that seem fairly unsatisfactory because you know I wouldn't be able to do anything of any sort of height, but it seemed incredibly dangerous as well, because if the clamp were to slip, this thing would probably go flying into the blade, and the clamp's made of metal, so who knows what damage that would have done. So anyway, I made this. So that simply clamps over the top. Just engage the 2 toggle clamps and it's solid as a rock once I lock it in place. The reason that I wanted to make something like this, apart from the fact that clamping the things by using just a clamp onto the fence was what I thought was dangerous, the other reason was I found that any sort of safety appliance, unless it's easy to use, then you probably won't use it. So this just sits in the corner. When I have to use it, it takes me 2 seconds to put it on. Then it's just a matter of grabbing one of these. I'm going to use it like that. So the knobs will go on the top facing out, one on each side. You just slide them into the 2 tracks, drop the knobs, and in fact what I intend to do is just leave this one on the 2 track all the time, so I don't even have to do this. I just have to put it straight on here, adjust it to the piece of timber, and I should be good to go. So coming back to the piece of timber that I was using before, what we would normally do is slide the fence up to it, and then we take this along to a position, say around about there, press it down reasonably firmly on the top of the piece of timber, and then tighten it. And there we go, that can't move while it travels past the blade. And in fact, just a few minutes ago I actually, don't know if you can see that, I cut this piece. It did a perfectly straight line all the way down. Did a fantastic job. So there you go. Not only are these safe, or do they make your saw table a safer place to be, but they do a superior job. So I recommend them. Thank you.